down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, Savvy investors, way to tune in to the Savvy Radio Show. I am your host, Steve VanCauwenbergh, the Savvy Landlord, blah, blah, blah. And I am juicy, kinda loosey. Why? One of my homies called me the other day, and I sold him a property, and I was like, yo, how's it going? He's like, man, I can't rent it out. I was like, ooh, what do you mean you can't rent it out? He says, I'm getting tons of showings, but it's not renting. Interesting. Good question. So getting tons of showings, has this happened to you? It's not renting. And I may do an episode on I'm getting tons of showings and it's not selling. So, well, first of all, you got to look at what's the product. What do you have here? You have a product that you're selling, and that is a property or house, a place to sleep, a place to interact, a place where someone's giving you money to use your property. So you got to keep that in perspective. Now, I dug a little deeper into my homie, and I was like, so how's the property manager? Well, he's showing it. Well, what does he say? I don't know. Well, that's the first problem right there. First of all, you have to ask yourself, what could it be? Now, I've been struggling with this lately with my own property manager and my own vacancies. It's so quick to point the finger at the property manager and say, you're not doing their job, something's wrong. Now, technically, they are not doing their job, right? I mean, it should be rented out, but it's not rented out. So what's the deal? So you got to take responsibility ultimately in life, and everything, your weight, everything, your children, the whole deal. It's your responsibility. So you got to take responsibility. Now, what you need to do, is call the property manager and come across like, yo, how are you doing? It kind of express how critical it is. Now, they know that they're losing and you're losing, right? You're losing more than he is losing or she is losing as a property manager. What do you mean? Well, when you start thinking of it in perspective, you have holding costs, lights on. You have insurance, taxes, and a mortgage payment usually. And you should have a mortgage payment because it should be leveraged. So before you call them up or her up and start bashing them, you should say, hey, can I help you? What could go wrong? What's the issue? And just listen. Does it smell bad? Is it bugs? Ask good questions and get feedback. And then you ask, what can I do to help? And then during this conversation, it should take 2 or 3 minutes, and you should express how critical it is that you need to rent this out. Now, you can also incentivize the property manager, meaning like, as soon as I get this one rented, I'm possibility of getting another one online, but I can't move forward until it gets rented. So you got to get to the bottom of the situation. So the one problem that I think that from my own experience is that the first thing I think about as an investor is it's the price. Now, the price does matter. I was hanging out with an investor the other day, and he was doing over $200,000 flip, and it was 215, and then or 212 is when he listed it, and then it went to 207. And then when I just said, hey man, what's the deal? He's like, I'm getting tons of showings. Here we go again. I'm getting tons of showings. And if you're getting showings, there's a disconnect between the price, the product, or the customer. Price, product, customer. Price, product, or customer. And so the first thing as investors, we just drop the price. That's what I used to do, but then I find out what's going on. One of the things that I have found recently is videos work. And even if it's in the hood of good, you could still do a video and show the property in its state. One, you just bypass any tire kickers and waste time for your property manager. If I was a property manager and I kept showing the property over and over again, of course I'm different. I'm like, hey, there's something wrong here. We need to correct it. But a typical average, property manager, I'm assuming they're going to get frustrated and they're not going to be willing to get in their car again. So, price is an issue. Now, you can drop the price down. Back to my boy that had a $207,000 listing. He's getting tons of listings. And so I did a little digging, a little comps, you could say. I look at the recent sales, and I found a realtor that just sold the property around the corner from where that property was, and it was sold for $199. Well, that could be the defining moment to sell a property from 207 to 199. Yeah, that is a big jump. That's 7%, or yeah, not 7%, but still, it's $7,000, and it still stings. But what stings in the long term? So I was just calculating his holding costs, insurance, taxes on that $200,000 asset. He's paying $1,000 a month of holding costs. So he has options. One, he could just rent it out, and maybe the market is turning, and it is turning right now. It is going down. And he can wait and rent it out real fast for about $1,400, $1,500, and cash flow $400 a month for 12 months and make 4 G's. Or he could play the game or take the risk and let it roll out and lose $1,000 a month. And his profit potential is about 15 G's on that property. Now, 15 months, you can either wait and choke out for 15 months and maybe not, which is too riskful for me because of closing costs. I'm sorry, folks. I just jumped into the selling the property, but you got closing costs and inspections, or you can rent it out or just drop the price. So that's the first thing that we always think of as real estate investors. Let's drop the price. Now, a $10 reduction does a big difference, but if it's a $950 and you drop it down to $940, that's really not going to make a difference. You might have to take a hickey and drop it down to $895. It's weird how people can perceive $50 is paramount to people that are paycheck to paycheck. So that's one thing. You got to really communicate with your property manager or with yourself and say, how can I make this work? 1, video. 2, for sure, you can lower the rate. 3, you can consider staging. Just a lot of people don't have vision. And usually that I've noticed that people that do rent, this is kind of their first or second rodeo. So they don't have a vision of what the house is going to look like, right? They've been living in their property, or they're just moving out from their parents, or whatever the case may be. They don't have a perspective. So you may want to stage it. Now, you can get with a bunch of other landlords and say, hey, man, let's get 5 people to throw in $500. That's $2,500. And you can, buy some staging stuff and maybe rotate it around month to month to other landlords. I know that every month I have at least 1 vacancy. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. And so if I had access to staging and I know that my man just got it rented out, as soon as it's rented out, you send a text blast to each other and say, hey, yo, my staging is done. Come pick it up. And you can rotate it like that. So with $500, would that be worth it? Is it cheaper $500 to reduce the rent and you lose $600 a year? Or it's the same thing and now you have access to staging. So that's one aspect that you could do. I know I just made that up. I don't know if that means anything to you. Hopefully it speaks to you. And then what you really need to do, if you were on top of it and if your property manager's on top of it, call back all the inquiries, like what I do in my Google Voice. I type in the address that they're inquiring about, and a list of calls or text messages have come through, and I would manually, me, VC, back in the day, would call everyone back and say, hey, I noticed that you were interested in 123 Elm Street, and I just wanted to know what happened. Well, she said, there's bugs. Really? I'm so sorry, man. What if we took care of those bugs and reduced your rent? Would that be, well, I've already rented somewhere else. That's the perspective that you've got to think about in your mind, that when someone calls or inquiries, they've got to move. Like, bam, they're moving. Either you're dumb that they didn't move into your property, or someone else is a little bit more successful than you because they rented somewhere else, but they're calling. They're not fooling around. They're not tire kicking like, hey. Now, they may be tire kicking if they're trying to rent a $1,000 place and they can only afford a $700 rent. But reality is, even if it's $700 rent and a $1,000 unit, here's the deal. They need a place to rent, and let your team know that they're renting from you. So if you had 10, 15 showings, something is wrong, and you've got to figure it out. How do you figure it out? Now, is your property manager forthright in integrity? We all say we are, but are they willing to say, man, I'm not doing my job. I didn't realize that the electricity was, I don't know what they're going to say. But you need to be prepared. Again, this is your asset. This is your retirement. This is your future. This is your money, not the properties manager's money. He's still going to succeed with you as a customer or without you as a customer. So you got to bring it back into perspective. Ask yourself, what could it be? What's the situation? And the only way that you're really going to find out what's up with this, Jazz, is what? Contact everyone that looked at it. Seriously, if you want to be a baller, you got to go back, you got to bite the bullet, and you're going to hear the truth, and the truth will set you free. And one change could make a difference. Now, another scenario could be offer an incentive, move in special, but find out what's wrong with the property and correct it. My name is Stephen VanCauwenbergh. Yep, I wrote a few books. You may know about them. I hope you do. If you don't, you should do it. Anyway, if you're listening to this, in about 1 week, I will be speaking live in Ohio at the Ohio RIA Convention. You need to take part in that. It is probably one of the paramount events for myself. All the people that are doing it on a regular basis, the real deal investors, not the people that are trying to peddle stuff. Now, there'll be some folks there that will be selling stuff, but if the problem is you can't just buy a course and then you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. You got to really work the course. You got to read the book. But you should go to every event. It doesn't matter what the cost is or what you have to do to get there. You never know who you're going to meet. You may meet private money. You may meet the defining factor in renting out this unit. For example, years ago, when I went to my first Mr. Landlord meeting, and I was just hanging out, someone bumped into me. It was, I was really insecure, nervous. You'd think, what? Yeah, I was. And the guy was like, we're just talking about doorknobs. And, of course, I thought I was big, bad landlord. Yeah, I don't like it when someone locks out and I got to get over there and unlock it. My buddy's like, man, no one locks them out. I mean, we don't do any lockouts. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, we don't have a locking doorknob. If they're going to lock the door, they got to stick a key in it and lock it, the deadbolt. Oh, he's like, yeah, we don't have any locking doorknobs anywhere. What do you mean? I mean, like, no, it's just a passage knob on the bottom. Not only that, Thrifty VC was like, wow, I'm going to save $10 using a passage knob. And sure enough, folks, ladies and gentlemen, worldwide, I don't have any lockouts. So when you don't have lockouts, it saves you time and money. And what you're going to do with that time and money, you're going to go buy assets and go bless people.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.